Hey everybody, hey Scott, Michael, how's it going,
Hey
buddy?
guys. Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing all right, doing all right. So happy Monday to everybody in attendance. We appreciate you guys taking the time to come hear what we have to say, as always. And today is the last office hours in the month of March. Next time we convene, it should be April 2nd, I believe. So yet another month in the history books. They're passing rather quickly. So before we get into the nitty gritty here, I just want to take a moment not only to do the legal disclaimer, but as you all know, typically I've got our in-house technical guru, Steve Gomez, riding shotgun with me, but he's taking a little well-deserved day off today out in the canyons of Utah, somewhere having a good time. So he'll be back later on this week. And I have Michael Noss, Mr. Michael Noss, in Steve's place today, aka Bonpara on Twitter. And just so all of you know, Michael is the latest addition to the Trade Ideas team. And so we're going to put his expertise to work. Maybe Michael can get into a little bit of detail about what he's doing later on as the webinar progresses. But welcome, Michael. Pleasure to have you aboard.
It's great to be here, Jamie.
All right. So real quick here, just to make the lawyers sit a little bit more at ease. Just want to take the time, as always, to let everybody know that the information we share with you in these webinars, whether it's this one or any other one that we do, is strictly for educational purposes only. If you do need someone to give you investment advice, what to buy, when to buy it, how long to hold it, all that good stuff, please seek out a registered investment advisor or other licensed individual that can help you out with that stuff. But we're just a bunch of traders trying to show you guys some cool stuff in the markets along with our technology, so educational purposes only. And before we get into the itinerary today, as always, for the new people that might be attending for the first time, I want to let you know that it's not just the award-winning technology and the one-of-a-kind technology that we have here, although that is the foundation of what we have going on here, but we've built a nice, vibrant trading community around that. Now it all kind of starts off at the top here with Barry's Trading Room. Barry Anderson, been doing this for quite a long time, puts his own money at risk every day, uses Trade Ideas technology and showcases it in our free trading room. Barry opens it up 30 minutes before the open. And the cool thing about the trading room, not only is it Barry, but another cool aspect of it is the price, which is free. So you don't even have to be a TI subscriber to get in there and see what it's all about. So if you haven't been doing that, by all means, take advantage. Of course, today's Monday. You usually get me and Steve. And then Steve should be back in time tomorrow to take the helm for the trade of the week, which I'm not really going to get into detail. Save that for Steve for tomorrow, the trade of the week. And then, of course, we change things up a bit on Wednesdays, bring in Dan and Brad. Always a good time for the Q&A demo. And then, of course, the hourly webinars wrap up on Thursday with Andy's Trading Studio, and I ride shotgun with him. And then we put the cherry on top on Fridays with the support webinar, which is basically a 3-hour free-for-all from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. You can come in with any trade ideas question or just sit in and listen. Always some good information to be had in the Friday support session. Attendance just keeps going up, so that tells us that you guys are liking it. Now, what you don't see on this list are the things that we've added recently. So in addition to everything that I just outlined, we have now folded in 4 additional support webinars Monday through Thursday. Those start at 12 p.m. Eastern and go till 1:30. So those are running for an hour and a half, everything from basic to advanced, and we get a little bit more complex as the days progress. So we start with basics on Monday. By the time Thursday rolls around, it's advanced functionality. So 4 more educational webinars to keep you guys busy and educated. So if you haven't been taking advantage, we'll point out at the end of the webinar how you can sign up for those as well. All right. So, wow, what a day in the market. All right. And of course, you know, market recap. I mean, even in Steve's absence, Michael, let me get rid of this, and we'll come back here in a second. But let's just talk about the market and the overall action today, because coming into today, I don't care how you slice it or dice it or what your expectations were. I mean, it was pretty much all bets were off. Here's the close Friday. Of course, it just happened to be the bottom, but we didn't know that as of the close Friday. And then, of course, we get the nice gap up, even though it was minuscule, to say the least. Here we are looking at the 15-minute candles of today's action. Here's where we closed on Friday, and here to here, what was that? 0.4% as far as the gap number. I think it's right about there, about 4
Yeah, I think it's right.
Yeah. So not a huge gap, but a gap nonetheless off of the what looked like potential doomsday setting action here. Of course, bouncing off that 200-day moving average. Yeah, once again, and of course, it looked like we were going to try to fill that gap, but guess what, ladies and gents? Didn't get quite there. Turns back up, what we refer to as the U-shaped horseshoe pattern. Attempted gap filled and popped back up, and before too long, with 2 hours into the close, what do we have? Pops to new all-time highs. And of course, the interesting thing about today's market was there was long opportunity. Later half of the day, man, there was a lot of short action going on right here. Not only the market going down, but Holly the AI getting pretty leveraged on the short side. And of course, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, and we'll get into that. But Michael, I mean, we only see these situations pop up very infrequently, as a whole, right? Any thoughts, comments, concerns, what you were thinking coming into the session, what happened?
Well, it's one of those coming into the sessions. It's how many times do you see a candle that looked as ugly as the one on Friday, where there was no test of trying to break that. Mm-hmm. But looking at intraday on the SPY, I think you may agree with me. It looks almost like healthy action. When you get a gap up and it just running right off the bat, I get a little bit more skeptical than a nice pullback. The bears gave it a good try this morning and just kind of couldn't hold on. So I think it was healthy.
Right. No, I agree. The test was here. Sellers tried to take control. Everybody's like, ooh, we're gonna fill that gap, but nope. Puts the wick in and recovers, and not only recovers, but once we break this plane here, it was off to the races. And of course, that was the later part of the day. And this being right at 2 hours before the close, that bar specifically, let's see, where did all my little indicators go here? All right, well, usually when I put my pointer in the candle, I get my metrics popping up there, but for some reason,
being a little bigger with your chart, maybe? Sometimes if you shrink them too much, they get cut off.
Yeah, I don't know. I've experienced this. Of course, I'm on the latest dev build, which just came out Friday, I think, so could be a little issue with that, but not absolutely necessary to see what happened here. So, I was just talking to Michael before we started this. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find a chart out there that didn't go up in the last 2 hours of the day. I'm not saying everything did, but a lot of the stuff I was watching, once this plane was broken, it was just kind of Katie bar the door, little upside draft there, and a lot of things followed that. Now, that was the second half of the day. Let's go ahead and talk about what Holly had in the hopper today. And before we do that, expectations today. Well, we all know that expectations can make or break our trading day just on a quote-unquote normal day, right? Of course, today was no normal day coming into, the bottoming there Friday. So, all bets were off. I mean, this could have turned out anyway. Obviously, this is what happened. This is the way it did turn out. But coming into the session, the things that typically I lean on, you have to kind of discount everything until the market kind of finds its feet and gives us some indication of what might be going on. So, everybody knows that my go-tos in the morning are the compare count windows. So it was interesting to see in the first 15 minutes, the big caps showing a decent, healthy buy-side bias, in that opening 15-minute clue hunt that these guys are basically doing for us. So we saw 58 and 59%. Didn't matter if it was the 4 billion cap or the 5.4 billion cap. Not so good on the smaller caps, right? Of course, we all know the big caps of what's been leading this charge, so it would only seem right that the big caps pull us out of the doldrums as well. Now, of course, the end result was a move to the high side, but when you're seeing these metrics and then you're seeing this type of action, well, you know, it's mixed signals, right? We're getting mixed signals, and on a day like today coming in, no big surprise to know that some of the signals were mixed. But in the end, overall finish was higher. We've been seeing crimson on the red side lately. It's been a while since we saw the dark green as well, but that's what we finished with today. So it was very interesting seeing what Holly started off with today, right? Boy, she had a short bias about 30, 40 minutes into the session. And everybody, including myself, you know, let's see here, let's count it up here. We're looking at 15-minute bars. So Holly started getting pretty aggressive at the end of this 15-minute candle here. All right. Now, let's sort by time so we can see about 40 minutes in. 15, 30, 40. This is where Holly starts putting on her short positions. And I got to say, the timing was pretty interesting here. So we can see, boom, 7-11, boom, boom, boom. And, you know, not a whole lot of gaps in there. So between 7-11 and shortly an hour after that, you know, in this 1 hour period here, you know, she spit out quite a few shorts, 9 to be exact. And of course, thought it was going to be an interesting day, not only based on what we were coming into, but once again saw Holly show up with almost a 50-50 stack of long short, but the longs won out by one strategy here. So we had 9 strats, 5 longs, 4 shorts, and of course it was majority of the shorts that took the most trades today. Now, when we see Holly doing this at 7-11 Pacific Standard Time, 10-11 Eastern Time, and then we start to see this, you know, we opened up quite a nice little profit on risk, not only risk off, which ended up winning the day because the market turned, but risk on, sure, as the day went up, these things got worse and worse. But look at the opportunity that was presented during this downturn. And from a programmatic system of this nature, that's exactly what we want to see. All right. When the market was down, cycling down, she was loaded up quite nicely. And during, you know, before the turn was put in, you know, we got up to almost, well, short of 250 on those open trades, which on a 9-count open trade, that's not too shabby. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, and Jamie, just something interesting to note is the kinds of strategies that triggered off today. Most of the strategies, except for that 2 trades on putting on the brakes, were all momentum strategies, both long and short. So I think that might be kind of telling to especially new traders out there that don't just pay attention to the direction that Holly is trading, but what she's trading. You know, it may be indicative of this higher volatility environment where you're kind of seeing her fade less and less and put on the gas and the momentum camp a little bit more.
Absolutely. And, you know, downward momentum, if we just kind of sort by the strategies here, you know, a lot of these guys finished with, you know, worse risk ons, but it's really the whole basket. You know, how much alpha was presented during this time period of the down move, and from, you know, from a trade perspective, seeing her with this heavy short bias during those crucial times, that's exactly what we want to see. And you're right, momentum, they were the momentum strategy, or the momentum strategy spawned most of those short trades and was responsible for this opportunity that was put in front of us before the turn actually happened. And of course, it's risk management at that point in time. You know, once you have those positions and they're up, then we either can treat them like a basket and just try to cycle out when our P&L on the overall side is where we want it, or we can just go about setting those stop losses, maybe some trailing stops on the shorts to protect what we had already built up in the shorts. So, you know, usually what we do is take a peek at the ones that kept going, but since there was a pretty good reversal in the market today on the shorts, that's simply not going to be presented here. we're going to see all these guys finishing worse because, well, everything kept going up. So, from a, risk-off perspective, it definitely won the day. But if, as traders, we're always having to size things up, figure out if the momentum is stopping, stalling, market flipping. And, one indicator that could have been would be, once we start to see this down move subside and we start to see this candle put in and then a little green guy right here, well, that might be a pretty good indicator from just simply that little washout, if you could call it that, on the 5-minute, and then followed up with a green bar. Could give us indication that, well, might be all she wrote for the short side today. Now, what I also like to point out here is the max profit column. So, during this run of the shorts, once again, this is looking at risk off on the max profit. And, to see, if we eliminate, let's just resort this way so we can kind of kick the 2 longs out of the equation here. So they'll be at the bottom. But once again, putting on 9 longs, and not even one of them did not go in the money at some point. The worst one was TER here, which, got in the money by 3 cents, but was no face ripper either. You had plenty of time to make a decision whether to stay in this trade or get out, because it basically just consolidated all day until that magic 2-hour level was done, and then it pretty much followed the market, which is pretty much what every other stock did in the last 2 hours. Can't say every one, but pretty much all of them. So I always like to point this out because, hey, today was an anomalous day because of where we were coming into the session. But on any given day, whether it's a boring day, busy day, long day, short day, I always like to point this out because putting on 9, or in this case, the total with the 2 longs at the end there, 11 trades, and all of them in the money at some point, even if we kick this guy out of the equation, 10 out of 11. With substantial profit, giving us the second half of the equation, which is always the nicer part to deal with of a trade, is once we're in the money, how do we handle that? Do we protect it? Do we give it back to flat? Do we take half off the table? And so forth and so on. Those are the nice things to have to worry about trading. The hard part is first getting in the position to protect your profit. All right. So once again, want to point this out because it does showcase the power of this statistical model, right? And getting into 10 trades and being in the money on all of them is not an easy feat in and of itself, right? So just want to point that out. Now, after the little short money run was over, well then, Holly did present a few nuggets to the long side, but not until the last hour, right? Makes sense. Our good friend Power Hour Long made the cut today. Didn't see Power Hour Short in there. And of course, it fired off 2 trades in the last hour and hit both of them, right? And of course, expectations, right? We're all watching Holly. We've been watching Holly for a very long time. And once we see the market recover, once we see the reverse horseshoe, and then the penetration of prior highs, and then a nice stair-step move higher. And keep in mind, these volume levels were pretty much, they were holding strong pretty much all day. All right. So when we see this, and now my information is magically decided, it wants to show back up, Michael, so that's good. So here we are looking, Holly didn't start taking those power hour trades until the last hour here. So once we see this and a move to higher highs, then Holly's like, hey, I'm going to try a couple of trades here from the power hour long. Well, then, things are already looking good. Everything's jiving. Why not take a stab at a couple of longs in power hour? And of course, if you did that today, you were rewarded to the tune of 25 cents on risk off here, 22 cents. But these trades were both in the money up to 35 cents while she was in the trade in risk off mode. And just to help point that out here, want to always take the opportunity to point out that when we do double click from Holly's blotter here, not only do we get all the trade metrics lined up here nice and tidy on the side, profit target, target stop, or excuse me, stop loss, and entry signal here. But the dark shaded area is Holly and her time in risk off, and then the lightly shaded is risk on. So, you know, once again, everything's laid out here for you. And I will say this just because it takes a while to remember this, but this smart layer here is another layer of our AI, which is going to appear on every chart, no matter if you type a symbol in manually. So just keep in mind, these were designed for quick and easy reference to stop loss areas, which are what most people lean on first. And then of course, the end of the shaded area is a recommended profit target. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're a new user. Any stock that you pull up is going to have the gradient here, so you can quickly assess what your stop loss and profit target will be. All right, so I see some questions popping in here. Let me just see if I need to address those before we move on. Okay.
I can just step in for Bill there, asking, am I going to help traders with bot trading? That's one of the main reasons that I'm actually here, I think. So
yes,
I don't know if this is a good time to introduce myself or not, Jamie.
Anytime's a good time. I say go for it.
Sure. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I've been using trade ideas now for well over 10 years. And in that time, I've got pretty deep into the weeds for more of the advanced stuff. So I've built a handful of the strategies that Holly has used or is using. So I'm trying to look to see if any of them were here today. But if you've ever seen Bond Shorty, that's one that's named after me. That's there a little bit. And from there, I've been making YouTube videos and just tweets and kind of sharing my story about how I went from scalping at a prop desk for pennies before the computerization of the market, and now 99% of all of my trading is completely handled automatically by the Trade Ideas bot. So to answer that question, yes, I'm planning on in the near future making a bunch of content that will come out in video form and maybe some webinars down the road to kind of help out people that are interested in a little bit further down the spectrum, because I would say a lot of our clients, a large majority, only see the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more. If you ever think you're running out of things to do with trade ideas, I guarantee you there's another level if you peel that onion, and that's more or less where my focus is a little bit deeper down. So I hope that's a little explanation of a bit about me and what I'm doing here, and if you have any questions about that kind of advanced stuff and you're emailing our support, you can kind of put my name in there, and they're doing a really good job of sending that over to me.
Right. And, you know, as Michael said, he's been a long time user of Trade Ideas. And since we started ramping up and adding more staff and enhancing our product, well, we've always been doing that. But in the past 2 years, we've really taken it up a notch or two by bringing on individuals not only that have extensive market experience, but that have been users of the product for very long periods of time. And of course, as you might guess, those people aren't in huge supply out there. Matter of fact, it's you don't find people that fit the mold very often. So that's why we're extremely pleased to have Michael on board. In other words, it's been a long courtship, one could say, Michael. It took a while, but we finally got to know each other, and you know, everybody's like, yes, this is the right fit. So that's how Michael's fitting in here. Now, we're also going to get a peek here. We did this on Thursday's webinar with Andy, but we're also going to get a peek at what's coming down the pipe for Holly, because as you guys know, by bringing in people like Michael with extensive background and expertise in the field, this is what allows us to develop at a rate which is pretty much unheard of in the industry. All right, we're pumping out new versions. I don't even know what the X factor is. Don't even want to try to figure it out. But it's fast. And so, you know, there's the coding department, but then there's the, you know, the people that have to say, well, usually it's the trading perspective, right? And, you know, traders and coders don't usually speak the same language. So there's always a communication gap here. And Michael's kind of a hybrid in between there that's going to make these things work a lot more smoothly. All right. So, as Michael said, hey, if you get tired or stuck with ideas, hey, he's full of them. In addition to that, he's taking, I said full of them, not full of it, keep in mind, right? So in addition to that, with what Michael's doing with Holly and working with our developers, because, Michael, I don't want to do you injustice and try to rattle off the credentials that you do have. I'll let you do that when you feel it's appropriate. But, Michael does have other credentials. Michael's been in the industry for a long time and is quote unquote an expert in building these systems. So at the end here, we'll give you a peek into what's coming down the pipeline. And of course, Michael was instrumental in helping facilitate this, in working with the coders. So it's very exciting. There's some very exciting stuff coming down the pipeline, and we'll take a peek at it here in a second. But before we get back into the subject matter here, you got to answer this question, Michael, because it was a question that I had too, and that is, where did the name Bonpara come from? Because that's your Twitter name.
It is. It's both my Twitter and YouTube channel. It's a bit of a long story, and it's probably not nearly as interesting as most people think. But back when I was working at the prop desk, there was a guy who came and just started. He was from another country that I can never remember, but an island country down south. And it was kind of tradition, and I'm sure you saw this too, Jamie, back in the day, where the old traders would have a new trader sit next to them and just kind of watch over their shoulders and learn what they were doing, and just a way to head start their trading career. And I've always started out by asking people who start trading why they get into it. And this guy just kept saying Bonpara over and over again. And there was a language barrier there. So like most Canadians, I took him out for a beer to sit down and talk to him and try to figure out what he was really after. And I guess in his country, Bonpara just meant well off. It just meant not worried about money anymore.
Right.
He wasn't looking to get a Ferrari. He wasn't looking to do anything like that. He said he wanted to be able to go to a restaurant and not look at the bill and these type of things. And I thought that was just a really chill, island lifestyle way to do it. So I stole it, and that's what I've been going by ever since.
I like it. I like it. Good name, and not what one expects. You're just like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, everybody. So that's a little peek into Michael, and you're going to be seeing and hearing more of him in the future. So let's see here. Let's do a little time check. All right. So, once again, things are not as they typically are with Holly. Not a lot of risk on. Actually, there's only one trade showing more on risk on today than risk off, and that is even a paltry 3 cents right here on the GCO long at the end of the day here. So, I mean, that's something, but everybody here is used to seeing 30 cents, 40 cents, or higher on the spread between risk on and risk off. Now, of course, if today didn't unfold like it did and we had a downturn, well then sure, we'd see a lot of risk on money, but that's not staying short today was not the path, right? So no risk on spreads to really go over. As far as trade arounds go, not really any of those either, because they have to be red and then turn green or maybe get stopped out, and we use that second occurrence as an entry point. But just due to the market, today is really one of those days where things happen the way they did. We could have tried to prepare for them, but a lot of things, a lot of metrics that usually work. It was just one of those days where if you were itching to get in there and do things right off the bat, you might want to check that part of your mentality, because today was let's just be patient and see what happens instead of rushing in headlong, because looks all nice and safe and pretty in retrospect, but all bets were off coming into today. So it's one of the reasons why we're seeing an output like we see today. So short, 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 couple of long plays into the close, and they both worked. Now, of course, once we saw this move higher and the volume remained, well then, once again, one of the more simple patterns out there, when you see the whole market exhibiting a range break with volume, well, you know, as I was getting at earlier, this is just one of my favorite upside tickers. But man, if we go back to the 2-hour mark, and I tell you what, instead of me doing it that way, we'll just say time frame, start now, we'll go back to 11. And then it's still going to take a little bit of juice to get down there. So if we were to keep going back and back and back here, then we're going to notice that after that 2-hour to the close mark, you know, which would have been right here, you know, here we are at 11 o'clock. Of course, 1 o'clock Eastern, or excuse me, Pacific is when the market closes. So once again, 1 o'clock here, the rest of the day. And I could just go through here and pull off the majority of any stock that I pulled up out of here, pretty much going to look the same. I mean, after that 2-hour mark was hit, everything pretty much did this. A couple did not. Don't want to have to worry about finding the ones that did not. But it was just that truly was the case of the rising tide lifting just about every boat stock out there. And so, you know, keeping with tradition, the go-to metrics, the last 2 hours, my go-to high volume tickers had no shortage of plays. You know, probably some of you are watching Andy's high volume tickers as well, the high-low pro volume. The indicators and the volume metrics are a little bit more jacked up than what we have in here, but pretty much the same concept. I'm looking for 3 times 1 minute volume. I think Andy has his cranked up to like 5. But whether you're watching that one or this one, I mean, there were plenty of stocks coming through here today. Now, turbo up, family no resistance, not a lot of things at all-time highs. So this window was relatively quiet today. If we did take a look at the history, and just come down here to all, you can see it did have some things, but not near as many as normal. And we did see a lot of yellow coming through here today, which is even more of a cross signal because the compare counts on the smaller caps were looking a lot different than the big caps. But here we can see, just scrolling through, the green ones were the big boys, and we had HRS and BFAM and a few others, but pretty much quiet from this window today because of the nature of the market, and these things have the added criteria that they have to be at all-time highs, and that just wasn't the case today for a lot of stocks, even though a few still met the criteria. So definitely range-bound dailies that we had to contend with, but it just seemed like doesn't matter what it was, doesn't matter what industry it was. Just want to peel back a few more of these just to get the point across. But it just doesn't matter. In that last 2-hour period, you know, you put 10 longs on, probably 8 worked, and you could have just picked your initials or threw darts at a board and gotten the same result. All right. Question from Amin was, do we have one room open when the market opens? Well, our trading room, Amin, it opens 30 minutes before the market. So Barry's trading room is open all day. He opens it 1 hour before. All right, Richard, I'm just going to go ahead and answer your question as well. Richard's asking, is there a way to find stocks that are breaking out of pre-market highs or breaking down from pre-market lows? Well, if you want to see stuff before the open, right, well, then we've got the great pre-market channel, and I'm probably pretty sure that you're familiar with that one as well. But anytime we want to get busy with the pre-market filters, best way to do it is come to the search tab and type in the keyword, okay? So once we do that, we're going to see everything that has pre-market in the range. So we can use the below pre-market high or above pre-market lows to find those things, Richard, in the regular session, right? Okay, so in the regular session, we'd be using these guys right here, above pre-market low and below pre-market high.
And those are great filters. A lot of the algos I have run that filter just to make sure it's out of the way. Even if you're not looking to trade off of that, I think those are great filters to have in most scans.
Yep, and some of the, I do believe, if my failing memory serves me correctly, those are some of the newer filters that we have here, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we are constantly working, and not only do we have some new Holly functionality coming down the pipeline, but we've also got some new filters as well, because more filters is more combinations and opening up for more potential scenarios that could work out well. All right, here, so we're almost at 2:40. I guess this is a pretty good time to give you guys a little sneak peek here. All right, so a peek at the new test AI. And so before we get into this, let's kind of rehash here on some of the common themes that we talk about all the time. Now, I'm sure it's like a broken record, right? Of course, I'm sure it's a very soothing broken record since it's me talking and Steve and Andy most of the time. But we always say, what's Holly's strong suit? Right? And her strong suit is all that heavy lifting that she's in the process of doing as we speak and will continue to do until the open tomorrow or until she gets her strategies configured for the next open. And that reminds me, just wanted to give everybody a refresher. And this is on risk off for Holly since inception, which was the beginning of 2016. This is how she's been doing against the SPY. All right, and of course on risk off we did have a little flattening area right here, but this is normal, especially in a system of this nature. A little flattened area here over the past so many days, but that's okay. Just like a stock always has to take a breather as it's going up, but of course, how long is it going to run before it takes the breather? That's always the unknown question. But still a very nice spread developing here between Holly's performance and the S&P. Now, with what we're about to bring online, can't say for sure, but I would like to think that we're about to get out of the flat area here and start setting new all-time highs. Now, will that happen sooner or later? We'll see. So, without further ado, let us all focus on the numbers on regular Holly today. So what do we have? 62 cents on risk off and predominantly a short blotter. Risk on, 281 to the downside because all the shorts would have ended up getting worse. So minus 281, risk off wins the day with positive 62 cents. So with the new model that we're currently testing, which, by the way, it's not going to be necessarily a replacement, but it's going to be an enhancement. So in the end, once we release this new technology, what will it look like? We have the ability to pick between Holly number 1, Holly number 2, or see both at the same time. That's kind of up in the air right now. But the bottom line is, on a day like today, not only would we have had some nice short opportunity put in front of us in the first half of the day, but when I come in here and I change to our super secret test server and hit the button, okay, a little bit of a different story here. Now, Power Hour Long showed up in other Holly as well, and it showed up in this version as well, and I think one of the trades was duplicated in the GCO, and then these were different ones. But you can see, wow, this version only went long, right? And we can see risk off, decent 55 cents, risk on, $1.25 on only 6 trades and some pretty darn impressive stats right here. power hour long would have ended up spitting out 4 on this one for a win rate of 75%. And this little guy hit 2 for 2, 100%. So imagine having the short opportunity presented to you in the morning, and then this type of long activity bringing more long plays in for the second half of the day. And that's where we're headed. And of course, without getting into too much detail here, okay, what makes this different? Well, it's the things that you can't see. In other words, as Michael was saying, and feel free to chime in here, Michael, different ways for Holly to improve upon her weak point, which is the exit. Am I too far off base there, Michael?
You're not, and I'll take a little bit out of Dan's book here and just be cryptic and optimistic that this is kind of the beginning of the things that I'm going to be trying to poke around in the back end of Holly. We're teaching her much more. So I guess we sent Holly back to school, and she's going to learn a bunch more than she knows now. And then she's going to have all of this extra data to play off of. So, you know, increasing the filter set she runs off of, increasing the alert set she runs off of, just more data and more combinations of data, which knowing how fast she learns is definitely going to lead to tighter filters and better results overall. So this is, you know, I've started with you guys mid-February maybe, and you know, I basically just getting my feet wet here. So this is going to get real cool real quick, I think.
No, I agree. And we've all been keeping very close tabs. And of course, you know, we've been around the block. So we don't get excited easily, right? It takes more and more to get us old dudes excited. And this is definitely doing the trick. So once again, it's making Holly better on, it's basically strengthening up her weak points, right? So you can imagine better exit criteria, better exit strategies, being able to lock in more and more of that. Of course, we already know that because once Holly hands it off and lets us trade it, well, then we kind of do have to rely on our skill set, the old man versus machine. But hey, anytime you have a model and you can improve its exit criterias and improve performance, well, then that's definitely a route we want to take. And this is even one step closer to making auto trading for our clients and the Holly strategies one step closer to making that a reality as well, because we want to make sure that the timing is right and we're getting the numbers and the performance that we like before, which is, you know, and by the way, this is a question that we get a lot here lately, a little bit in the beginning, but over the past couple of years, it's probably the predominant question, and that is, can I use Holly strategies to auto trade? And of course, the canned response has always been no, we're not there yet. But if things keep improving along this tangent, well, then I think we're going to be there before too long. We'll see.
Yeah, I would agree that this is a quantum leap for Holly, and as I said, it's just a month maybe of time put into it. So, you know, the deeper we get with it, we just see that there's kind of more and more opportunities. So without talking up stuff too much, it's, you know, people are talking about this Holly 2.0. I could see Holly 2.0 turning to Holly 3.0 and 4.0 very, very quickly down the road. I think things are going to accelerate from here.
Right, and I can see Christopher's comment there. He loves that trade ideas has no finish line for development, and that's pretty much it. There is no finish line. There is just constant improvement, and you know, no finish line. We're just going to keep doing it and keep improving, and that's the goal. There is no finish line. All right, so you know, I know everybody's asking, when's it going to be out? When's it going to be out? Well, we usually don't show you things unless they're pretty close to coming out. Of course, you know this as well as I do, Michael. You know, if we go ask the coding department, number one, they don't like us bothering them. Number two, if I did get in there and ask, hey, when's this going to be ready? You know what the canned response is from a coder? They're going to be like, when it's ready. So they don't like to give timelines. I know everybody's chomping at the bit, but you know, we don't show stuff unless it's getting relatively close. Now, does that mean a week, 2 weeks? Don't know yet, but it is close. Now, to answer your question there, Waleed, will it be possible to hedge? Well, I don't know. You might see situations work out in that capacity, but hedge. I mean, hedge in what capacity? I guess.
Yeah, I think we have a natural hedge as small retail traders where we're trading so small that we can just get out of a position. And then really, I think that's probably our best hedge. When I hear hedge, I think more of the hedge fund space, which I'm coming from to get here. And they had to use things like hedges because they turned like a battleship. Whereas you as a retail trader can be in and you can be out moments later without really affecting the market. So I would say your best hedging tool is, following Holly for maybe multiple trades, some long, some short, but your best hedge is just your nimbleness and how quick on your feet you are.
Exactly. And Wayne, I just see your question up there. Wayne's asking, can I explain idea surfing? What is it and what pauses it, and do we need to keep it on? Okay, real quick here. Just take note of my TI toolbar right here. Now, let me get a top list up here, because what is idea surfing? You can see it right here. You can see mine is paused. Now, I'm just going to push these guys down here to the bottom a little bit, and when I hit the button, now it's enabled. So when you enable idea surfing, what it does is it looks at all your top lists that you have open on your current layout. Here's one of mine. So any top list that has symbols on it, it's just going to pull up each symbol, leave it up there for, I think, slightly less than 10 seconds, maybe even 5 seconds, and then flip to the next one. Now it will also peruse Holly's blotter and include those stocks. So you can see orange, BHVN. It'll highlight the symbol that it's showcasing. So it was basically designed so that maybe in the more down hours, when you're trying not to overtrade and trade during the lunch hour and churn, a lot of people put it on surfing, because all of a sudden you see a chart that you never would have seen because you wouldn't have been surfing and punching in charts manually or symbols. But because you put it on surf and you're sitting here eating your sandwich at lunch, you had a really interesting chart shown to you by the surfing mechanism that you would have missed had you not been surfing during that downtime. So pretty simple and straightforward. It's only going to showcase the stocks in your top list that you have open or in your Holly blotter.
Yeah, and that's a great tool, especially for you guys, which I use Trade Ideas a long time to kind of sneak in a good trade here or there while working. Something like that is great, because you're right, if you have multiple monitors or something like that, you can put Trade Ideas up on one and pretend you're working for your boss on the other, and then when that alert that you see really catches your eye, you can switch over. So it requires a lot less kind of manual work than it did before.
Yes, and Farhad, will there be a change in subscription fees? Well, fortunately, we already got that out of the way. So rates did go up a little bit just not too long ago. Now, Scott's going to go over all the new rates at the end here and provide discount codes for those people who are waiting on discount codes. So don't worry, we'll get to that soon. Just catching up on seeing if there's any more relevant questions here before I turn it back over to Scott. So give me 1 second here. Any thoughts on market resistance points is what Farhad was talking about. I mean, I can try to estimate here. Michael, feel free to chime in. But I mean, this little area is going to come into play relatively soon. Probably is the first test. This little area from back here. That's what sticks out to me. Of course, if we don't hold this level tomorrow, things could get interesting, right? Or who knows? We could move sideways in here if we don't get a good, volume update tomorrow. So, I mean, from a very general standpoint, these are the areas that I'll be, focusing on. If we can stay above, we did close above that line today. So maybe we toe the line, and maybe anywhere in this area is game. But, that's a very general prediction there. We might go sideways, we might go up to the top here, or anywhere in between.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important to kind of keep an eye on when it comes to support and resistance, if you're new to trading and you didn't trade, 2008, 2009 craziness, just keep in mind that things don't stop as clean as they do when you're in low volatility, when you're in high volatility. If you're watching support and resistance, just kind of keep in mind that things may bleed through a little bit one way or the other. So just adjust your position size in there accordingly, in my humble opinion.
Yep, when in doubt, adjust position size. It's better to, what's the old saying again? Missed money is better than lost money, right? So anytime we're in areas of uncertainty or additional uncertainty, I should say, can't go wrong scaling back on the size and the risk. All right, looks like we pretty much got caught up. I will say this to Paul, can't find a filter for stocks that are crossing above or near their smart stop. And that's because the smart stop is always just the value that's recommended. So, it would be like underneath or above smart stop. And we might be able to do that with a custom filter.
I was looking at that, and the issue that you have to keep in mind is that the smart stop is from the current price. So they'll kind of never catch up. So what the smart stop does is says, okay, this is the current price of the stock, and then this is the volatility that I see in the stock, and that's how the algorithm works and adjusts it dependingly. So you're always going to be a bit behind the smart stop, if that makes sense, because every time you look at that, it's going to change a bit. So that's why we end up putting it on the chart. So if you click on a chart at the point in time, it kind of freezes the smart stop there for you, and that won't really move that much. Whereas if you're trying to pull it from a mathematical formula to get kind of deep there, it's going to be constantly changing. So that's not really something we can do, but we can estimate a smart stop. So if you want to do more about that, you can just, I guess, email me at info@TradeIdeas, and I'll try to help you out there if that didn't make sense.
Yep, good stuff, good stuff. All right, looks like we're just about out of time. So Scott, if you're there, we're ready for you.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. A couple items on the way out. I just want to remind everyone there's an ebook that Jamie was nice enough to contribute to. Go ahead and download a free one, trade-ideas.com/ebook. Put in your email address, get the free download. It'll give you 5 strategies to keep in your trader toolbox to survive the market when buying the dip no longer works. Once we slip from a bear market from a bull market to a bear market, you got to have an idea what to do. So get that book. We also have, there's a podcast. Oh, you can get Brokerage Plus if you have Interactive Brokerage. Email us about that. It's a way to automate your trading using our strategies. But make sure that you're a podcast subscriber. Search for Trade Ideas Podcast in any app that you use to listen to podcasts. Also, we have a discount code that's available. Just use the code Holly Madness before the end of the month to save 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas. You can also use this to upgrade from standard to premium. So just log in using the login link on our homepage in the upper right. Go to the account management section and click on Change My Subscription. Just use the code when you're doing that and save 15% on the first month or year of your upgrade. Thanks, everyone. We'll have a recording of this up later on tonight or tomorrow. You can download some of these slides, including the discount code, by expanding the handouts panel on your GoToWebinar control panel interface. You can email Jamie directly at jhodge@trade-ideas.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at QuantBot. Steve Gomez is at TradeIdeas1. Dan Merkin's Trade Ideas 1. Steve Gomez is Today Trader. Thanks, everyone. I think Michael Noss is Bonpara. We'll get a slide up for him at some point. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. We'll have the recording up later on. You get a reminder about how to find it tomorrow. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Mike.
All righty. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you, Michael, for popping in and filling in today. Really enjoyed it. And thank everybody for attending. We know your time is valuable and appreciate you popping in to hear what we have to say.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks all.